Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unraveling. I am your host, Jamie.
And I'm July.
And what are we going to be talking about today, July?
Well, in today's episode, we're diving into the concept of authenticity, the constant use of the word authentic, and the false impressions we're living in of what the authentic human actually looks like. Because, come on, guys, let's face it. Us humans are complex creatures. We're not like inanimate objects that this word was originally applied to, like art and antiques and, designer handbags. So why does it feel like we're treating authenticity as some kind of ultimate badge of honor, or worse, a goal we have to strive for?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to dive into today.
Nice.
Yeah.
I dig it.
I
dig it.
But
before we do that,
we're going to lead in with our little game we've been playing.
Yeah.
This and I just want to say, like, this, just, I don't know that we've mentioned this before, but this game actually is really fun. Like, there's actual rules and a way that
you can actually play it.
And it's really cool. And it's a great way to have deeper conversations with people about your relationship with that person and get to know them and 100%. Be honest. And they're pretty cool.
No, we always link them in our show notes, and I highly recommend following them on Instagram, actually, because they do reels of like people playing the game.
Oh, that's fun.
It's really cool. Yeah,
that's fun. So is that on, like, what's their Instagram? Do you know?
I think it's at the Skin Deep. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But I always link their website in our show notes because we talk about them so much. So you can find their Instagram, obviously, through their website.
It's so funny that we've just randomly picked this game.
I know. Maybe they'll, like, tag along in our journey and support us at some point somehow. Not that that's what we're striving to get here. We just got the game. We play the game. So, got to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
So our question today is, when was the last time I misunderstood you, and why do you think I did?
Yeah. So there was this time. No, I'm just kidding. I think I misunderstand you all the time.
Yes.
And I think you misunderstand me
probably
all the time.
Yeah.
Because we both stand there after we say something looking at the other like, huh? What? And we go, and you say a lot, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. I think we also misunderstand each other in very different ways.
Yeah, and then I'll say, like, okay, wait a second. Let's just back up. What are you trying to say?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, and as I was saying before we started the episode, sometimes you'll start, like, I'll say something, and then you go down this, like, explanation train of thought, and I'm like, where did this come from? Like, what is she explaining to me right now? And what did she just think I meant just now? But I just let you go. And then I wait it out. And then I go, what are you talking about? So therefore, you're misunderstanding me, therefore then leads to me misunderstanding you. It's like this cycle we're on. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, it's not like anything toxic.
No,
it's actually quite funny.
No.
It's because we come from different worlds.
Yeah.
And then also, I acknowledge that I can be confusing to many because I do the way I speak sometimes. I'll skip words and I'll use made up words, like the thingy thing.
Oh, God. That just reminds me of childhood.
The thingy thing over there. Or
go grab that thing.
The what's-a-call-it. Like, I just, Yeah. I have funny little, I think my husband is still getting used to my it's like my own language.
Yeah, I just know that, like, I don't explain myself very well sometimes.
No, you don't.
I really don't. I'm really bad at it. Yep. That's a me problem right there.
I mean, but this is a good, like, reflection to have, because for other people listening, like just pausing and saying when you don't understand, or waiting until the person's finished speaking. And if you're still not getting what they're saying, then asking. Because let's face it, a lot of disagreements and blowouts amongst people happen from miscommunication, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess I should say, like, none of our miscommunication is ever, like, serious, I want to say. Like, causing issue in any sort of way.
No.
It's usually just mild confusion.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a couple of little hiccups.
Oh, for sure.
Along the road,
Yeah.
But
mostly, okay, but usually when there's like a bigger misunderstanding, it's because it's through text message, let's be honest.
Text message, yeah.
Or there's no context.
Or we've had a moment of pure stupidity and listened to what somebody else told us that the other said, or something like.
Fair.
And we're just like, what?
Yeah.
No? And then, but we have enough rationality to check in with each other and be like,
or, I don't give
confused.
my opinion right at the moment when I should.
Yeah.
I wait till it blows up in our faces, and then I'm like, yeah, I didn't think that was a good idea. And it's like, why the fuck didn't you say something sooner?
Yeah, that's exactly,
Yeah. Once again, me problem. Me problem.
Yep. Absolutely. So, yeah, no, I would say I misunderstand you all the time.
Yeah, same.
And
yet we also understand each other.
Clearly.
It's weird.
Yeah, clearly we do.
Yeah.
I was asking my husband if we sound like our normal selves, just talking in the kitchen or, in the living room or whatever, like how we are
normal
in our day-to-day
when we're not recording ourselves.
If we sound similar or the same on the podcast. And he's saying, yeah.
That's
so
good.
I guess, guys, this is us.
New name for the podcast.
Well, that's taken. That's a TV show, right?
I know. We can't take it.
So, not that this life isn't necessarily taken per se. I don't know if it is or not, but nonetheless.
Well, we're all living this life, so nobody can really claim it.
And unraveling. Well, this life is our newsletter.
Yeah.
And unraveling. I guess we could talk about that really quick.
What?
So, we're unraveling. The podcast is unraveling.
Yeah.
With Jamie and July, with July and Jamie, whatever. It's
both
interchangeable.
Of us.
Yeah. And then we have this little newsletter that we're doing, and it's called This Life, which we get so much fun, like such a kick out of.
It's fun. It's fun writing about it.
Yeah, because let me tell you, when you write out this life, I don't know, there's just something comical sometimes, because it's like,
because of the way it fits into like sentences sometimes.
Yeah,
where it's just like this life,
and I'm thinking about this life. Yeah. It's funny.
It's great. It's good.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Of all the business names we've tried out,
yeah, this very cute, simple one has been the most fun.
So, our newsletter, we've started out with a certain vibe, and it's evolving as we become more comfortable really stepping into our own authentic voices on a public scale. So that's cool. And so check it out. It's it's over on Substack, and you can find it through the links in our bios on Instagram. Yeah. So easy to sign up. You don't get inundated with your in your inbox. It's twice a month
until we lure you in. Yeah. I'm just kidding. It's twice a month.
And you'll also get to see in the newsletter all the cool things that we're doing to make this an actual business. Yeah. And how you can get to know us better and work with us. So check it out if you like the vibe at all on this podcast, and we hope you do. And please rate us.
Yeah.
We should we haven't said that in any episode we've recorded so far.
I know, we gotta do that.
Please rate us, comment, and share. Share with friends. We greatly appreciate the support. We're just trying to grow over here.
Yeah.
We're just a little sprout.
Help us nurture our little seed.
Yep. What do they call it? Our brainchild.
Oh,
So
on that note.
On that note, let's talk about authenticity. Yeah. So, what does the word authentic even mean anymore? Do we even know?
I don't know. It's one of those words that's been so overused that like, what does it even mean anymore?
That's bottom line, right? Like, what do we know about it? I'm gonna actually look up the actual definition right now, if I can multitask. Oh, I'm not connected to the internet on this because
Oh, okay. Well, you start talking about your notes or something, and I'm
gonna start talking about my notes.
I don't know, and I'll look up the definition.
Well, the reason why we're recording this episode, I did a little mini, like a little video reel on Instagram about a year ago. I had a lot of just reflection and I feel it's wisdom come through about this concept of authenticity, because authenticity is being used, this word, you're being told constantly, just be authentic, show up authentically, as if it's this magic key to happiness, to success in life. It's especially prevalent in starting an online business. Mm-hmm. Everybody's saying, well, as long as you're showing up authentically, mm-hmm. as long as you're being authentic, everything will fall into place. And a lot of people, live your best, most authentic life. Mm-hmm. Like this is a thing that's been mm-hmm. going on. It still is.
And yet nobody really explains what authentic what that means. They just use the word.
Yeah. And it's kind of ridiculous, really, because I started to really reflect on the situation of what the word means and where I've heard it applied previously, like mm-hmm. before all this came up of being an authentic person. Mm-hmm. It's a word that's applied to art. Mm-hmm. Right? So what do you have? The definition?
Okay. So yeah, I have a definition here that says authenticity is the quality of being genuine, true to oneself, and consistent with one's values, beliefs, and identity. Mm-hmm. It involves acting in alignment with your core self rather than conforming to external expectations or societal pressures. Authenticity is often associated with honesty, transparency, and sincerity in actions and communication.
And all of those things are important and absolutely should be what we're striving to be mm-hmm. as human beings. The thing is that this concept of showing up authentically on a public forum with you, especially with online business for sure, mm-hmm. is we're ever changing. We're constantly changing, because there's also, especially in online business, they tell you to be consistent, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of, that's an interesting little addition to the whole kerfuffle of confusion of the whole thing. We're constantly evolving as humans, and we have all of these different hangups. Some of us do, fear of showing up, anxiety, moodiness. Mm-hmm. There's so many. We're multidimensional beings, and so how can you say that one person isn't being authentic just because that's your perception of them in that moment, mm-hmm. when in that moment they're being authentic to whatever it is they're feeling mm-hmm. in that moment? That's like, we are legitimately, I feel very strongly on this, that we are legitimately in every single moment of every single day being authentic mm-hmm. to who mm-hmm. we are. Every single person online is showing up authentically mm-hmm. because that's what they feel they have to do mm-hmm. to get the likes, the followers, to be accepted mm-hmm. by other people. Every single person in your workplace is showing up authentically. Even, those people that we have labeled as, oh my gosh, I mean, she's so fake. She's such a phony. No, because that fake is the opposite of authentic. So no, that's not the case. They're being authentic because that's how they feel they need to be. They need to put on, even if it is an
that's somehow currently aligning with their beliefs.
It's aligning with their
identity.
Beliefs. It's aligning with how they feel in that moment. It's aligning with any fears that they have, that if they presented as something other than, that they're not going to be accepted. And maybe they do need to put on an act. In their mind, they feel like, oh, I need to pretend to be something I'm not so I can fit in. So I can be accepted into this, club, in quote, that I'm trying to be a part of.
And I feel like this, overuse of the word authenticity and being authentic, and everyone, a lot of people, showing up and saying, be authentic. It's also kind of another one of these things that's basically saying you're not good enough as you are right at this moment.
Well, agreed.
It's like, there's something wrong with you that you need to fix.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, the word that, authenticity is coming from is like authentication, which is, if something, to prove that something is authentic, it has to be authenticated.
Yes.
So authentication, the definition there is the process or action of proving or showing something to be true, genuine, or valid. So what you just said is absolutely right on point, because you're literally saying someone's not valid.
Well, yeah, and oh my god, so this just reminds me of something else I was writing about the other day too, and it's like, so, and who gets to make that decision? Well, who amongst us gets to decide that you're not being authentic, or I'm not being authentic, or that we're not being real?
Well, that's just it. You're invalid.
Yeah.
That you're invalid. So, that you're untrue. How do you know? You're being true to...
You're being true to who you are. In that moment.
Yeah. And this, we decided to talk about that. We would have talked about this anyways, but this came up to talk about authenticity and my sort of view on this overused word currently that has become quite there's a lot of pressure that I think, I don't know if men are feeling it, but certainly women are feeling like, I'm trying to show up authentically. And think about that. I'm trying to show up authentically. Right. And it came up last week when we went to record the podcast, because that morning I was not, I was in a mood. I was just feeling moody and kind of down. And I was just like, oh gosh. And now I'm going to have to show up and how am I going to record the podcast? And I mean, granted, after walking outside and our lovely walk to work, I was fine. Yeah. But when I came in to do the podcast, what was the first thing I said? She was like, I could record about authenticity today because I'm having some real feelings coming up about it. Yeah. So, because, it's like this, like showing up on a podcast and being, we try to keep it light. We talk about deep subjects, but we have our banter and our, our laughter and all that stuff. And it's like, if you're in a bad mood, how are you going to switch gear? Like, it can be challenging.
Right. Yeah. Like, how are you going to show up and be in that vibe that we've now established kind of thing?
And we
get in our heads about that kind of stuff for sure. Absolutely. I mean, I do the same thing. I think that day, I was like, let's record one on authenticity soon, because I was having the same thing, only in different ways, where it's like, in thinking about this journey of online business and or what it means to be a healer and how you're supposed to show up, I'll say in quotations, or what that looks like. And it's these things that we just make up in our head, really. I mean, we also, see them presented certain ways for sure a lot. And it's like, you don't always feel awesome.
Well,
no
we're
one does.
Cyclical beings. Yeah. We've got so many layers. We're multidimensional. We have layers within that, but we're also cyclical. I mean, we're moving with the
Mhm.
cycles of the moon and the cycles of the seasons,
Mhm.
and those things affect each of us
Mhm.
so uniquely and differently. It's as unique as our fingerprints
Mhm.
are, you know. So
And then you go
Come
into the
on.
whole like women's cycles.
well, that's
I
just
mean,
it.
I
That's
think we both said like last week too, because you were like, oh, I'm feeling really emotional, like I don't know
Mhm.
what's going on.
Mhm.
Like you said, you checked to see if like your period was coming or
Mhm.
something, and I was like, well, and me, I just like literally always forget I'm gonna have one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and mine started a few days
Yeah.
after that,
Yeah.
and I think we both made a comment about how we had like both felt recently like, oh, I just want to burn it all down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. No,
that's
exactly.
it's a lot to keep up with. You're not always like, woohoo, like
Yeah. So that just, again, like, so now what is it that people are implying? Does anybody even know what it is they're implying when they're saying be authentic,
Mhm.
show up authentically?
Mhm.
What exactly are you meaning when you're saying this to people, when this is the advice you're giving to
Yeah.
people? Because legitimately,
Mhm.
I feel that everyone,
Mhm.
whether you like them or not, whether you think they're fake or not, whether they're being funny,
Mhm.
sarcastic, it doesn't, that's
Mhm.
just being a human. Everyone is showing up authentically in the moment that they are in,
Mhm.
with whatever's going on inside of them,
Mhm.
whatever it is that they feel that
Yeah.
they have to present in that
Mhm.
moment, or aren't even conscious of
Well, exactly.
that they're presenting in that moment.
Yeah.
They're being authentic. And
Mhm.
this concept of just try to show up authentically. You can't, if
Mhm.
you're trying,
Then you're not.
then that's not
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm
I
sitting
know
here
you're
kind of like
smiling.
laughing because like I'm just so enjoying this, because I have been on a kick lately with just like unpacking these different things we say and just like really kind of unraveling them in my mind and being like, oh my God, that is so dumb. Like it's just, I don't know what's been going on, but yeah, I've just been on a kick lately with like so many different things of just like, why did we say that? Doesn't even make sense. Like when you really stop and think about it, it doesn't even make sense, because it doesn't matter if doesn't matter how intuitive you are or like what energy you're picking up on. And yeah, you can tell someone's like being fake, I'll say in quotations. They're not being fake. They are being true to themselves in that moment. They might like the amount of different fears and, you know, life experiences and whatever that comes into play with a person and why they're showing up the way they're showing up.
Yeah.
It's protection mechanisms, defense mechanisms, like whatever it is, right?
Feeling
unworthy,
fear of
anxiety. Like
there's so many, that's what I'm saying, is there's so many layers to each of us.
And then
and how many times have you heard someone say, you know, whether it's on an online forum or even in person, like, oh, I just don't like them, they're not a very authentic person. I've heard it.
Which is someone basically like, saying they're not
what are you talking
valid
about? Like they're not an authentic person. Are they human?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, like when the robots come out and start making videos, then we can kind of be like, that's not very authentic.
That's not an authentic person.
Yeah, it's not an authentic person. It is an authentic robot, but, you know.
Well, this is just it, right? And this authenticity thing, I do think it has caused a lot of people some extra anxiety that doesn't need to be there. Like, who am I? Not that it's not important to reflect on.
Of course.
Who am I? It's essential. But I think that this word that has become such a trend, and we do this with things, I think it is making people spin out and second guess themselves.
100%.
Who am I showing up authentically? You shouldn't have to think about it.
Yeah.
That's the key right there.
And
don't
once again,
think about it. It's not a job. It's not a task.
Yeah. It's not this like it's just bar you have to meet.
It's you being you. And yeah, there may be this person that you don't actually allow others to see. And you know that that's there. that's fine. That doesn't mean that you have to suddenly bring that forward. It just means you need to do some healing and some growth and reflection, and eventually parts of that person will come out. And then there's other parts of that, core self that we don't show to everyone that probably never will come out fully to everyone.
No.
You save that for like close relationships, for intimate friendships. And I mean, that's more vulnerability and like transparency. You're not going to just be vulnerable and transparent on a large scale with everyone. That takes like trust. You have to build to that with people, right? So I just don't think that we should be overthinking it and sort of shaming ourselves. Am I being, or questioning, am I being authentic?
Yeah.
Well, did you show up as you felt in that moment? Then you were being authentic.
Oh, 100%. Like, I know for myself, it's like, I think over the last few years in like, I'm going to say when I was like more kind of heavily involved in like the spiritual community, I put a lot of pressure on myself with like so many different things, but also with like, oh my God, like just kind of going over my mind, like, did I show up authentically, or like, hearing little comments here and there and being like, oh, I didn't do very good today at showing up as myself. Like I had my walls up, or I had this, or I had that, or, oh, I'm not being this version of myself that I am with this person, and all of these different things. Right. And it was like this bar that I felt like I had to reach.
Absolutely. I mean, we have that in the question here. Why does being authentic sometimes feel like trying to win an unwinnable game? That's exactly what you just described. And it's like, okay, so you had walls up. Well, that was authentic to how you felt, where you were at in your growth, your healing, and in the surroundings that, you were in at that time. You felt, and let's factor in the mood you were in that day, the cycle you were in that day. You felt that you needed to have walls up. It didn't mean you were being inauthentic. You were being 100% authentic. If you had come in and pretended that everything was okay, and then that's not very authentic. To have, again,
or
have to
is
try.
it? No.
Exactly. I mean, is that what people are suggesting here? Because if it is what they're suggesting, I think that's very damaging for many in their process of self-development and growth and healing. I don't think that that's going to help people necessarily, the whole fake it till you make it, because then we would sit there and would say, oh, well, they're faking it. Isn't that the whole thing? Is that we're not, you're not going to fake it. You're not going to try because you're not going to put on an act, because that's inauthentic.
Well, I think that's the thing too. It's like, I think in a lot of cases, as with most things, there's good intentions behind
100%.
all of this, and like this word, and like people being like, be your authentic self and all of that kind of stuff. But it's like not thinking about it, I guess, really, in what you're kind of implying.
Well, what you're out there preaching. I couldn't agree more, because just, it's like there's no explanation. You're saying, everybody's being told to be authentic, and yet there's nobody saying, well, this is what authentic is and looks like, other than authenticity is being your true self. Well, are you not being your true self within every moment as you are, just existing and being? It could be. I feel it's very damaging for people to have this.
I agree, and I think like there's probably different ways it could be worded. And maybe we stop using this authentic word so much, or because it's like, of course, I think there, like, absolutely, there's a part of healing that is like peeling back layers and like allowing different parts of yourself that you've had hidden to come forward and to become more comfortable with using your voice or showing up this way or showing up that way. And like, but that's not really explained a whole lot in this term authenticity of like, yeah, let's peel back layers. Let's become more comfortable with ourselves.
100%.
Like, you know, like let's start wording things like that. Like,
absolutely.
Let's start accepting ourselves more. I don't know what it means for you to be your authentic self. Like I'm not the one who gets to decide if you're showing up authentically or not.
Well, that's exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly. When
no one can decide that for someone else. But let's...
Agreed. And when you make this this accusation of somebody being fake, who are you to say that they're being fake, right? Like, it's very unkind.
Yeah.
It's very unkind, and it offers no grace for our individuality and our struggles that we each carry within us, you know, so unique to us and the experiences we've had in life.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, and there are many, sadly, many within the healing spectrum that are a bit dangerous and can actually cause harm when they have good intentions, right? I mean, yeah, nobody's doing this out of trying to create any bad intention. But again, I think it's become so trendy that so many people have grabbed onto this word. And I don't know if they've stopped and reflected on what it really means. Like I say, like authentic, it was applied to inanimate objects. Like, even though that definition comes up, I mean, think about it. As human beings, how can you authenticate a human being? There is absolutely no way to do that other than, yep, they have a pulse.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yep. They bleed. They have a pulse. They, you know, they're breathing.
Yeah.
The skin is real. They're not a robot.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, and it just feels like so many are pushing it as a goal we're pressured to achieve in, you know, instead of simply a reflection of who we already are and allowing the grace for that we are constantly in moment to moment, we are changing. I mean, cells are dying and being reborn. And like, you know, like, it's like, this is wild to think we are legitimately constantly a changing thing. We are not a piece of art that just stays the same, or that handbag that's been produced that's just, you know, got that designer name on it, and it will always be. There's no change to it. It just is what it is. And yet I am not the person I was 10 years ago. I don't even know who she was at this point, barely, right? Like, it's just like, we're constantly...
So which authentic version of yourself are you?
Well, that's
as
just
well,
it.
Right?
Well,
it's like...
That's another thing. If we go into that, like, if somebody knew me, let's just say 10 years ago, they that's when they knew me and we were really close, but then we've drifted. And then they hear me today say on this podcast, they could say, oh my God, she's so full of shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I remember, oh, she's so high strung or whatever, all this, you know, thing. Yeah. So yes, I was very high strung.
But that was authentic to who you were.
That was authentic to who I was and where I was at, and the healing that needed to be done, and severe social anxiety, you know, and now I have changed drastically from that person. And so, but if anybody hasn't been along on that journey with me the last 10 years, the last 5 years, the last month, because truly growth can happen in all different time frames. Like,
well, wasn't it was either you that shared something with me that you had saw, or I just saw something, I don't remember, but it was basically this was like a while back, but it was along the lines of like, basically you should treat everyone you see as if every day you're meeting them for the first time. Like, you should give them that grace.
You should offer them that grace.
Yeah.
I'm pouring tea in case anybody hears it. Yeah. No, so
because we're always changing.
We are always changing, and we should always have the space and the room to change. And when you really care for someone, which we all should care for one another, you know, that's it's a human condition that we should embrace more. It would help us have all the beautiful life that we want, and peace and all those things that are, you know, we're all craving in this world. But we don't offer that grace, and we get bitter and we get angry, and we call people, we say, oh, they're being fake. Oh, that's not who they are. They're putting on an act. Oh, I've known them for years. That's not who, you know, like, even though you haven't hung around with them. And obviously in an online space, you're not really, like, when you're encountering people you haven't known, and you're broadening your reach, like, you know, these influencers and stuff, you're out there on such a large scale. Of course you're going to be different than how you are when you're amongst your intimate family and friends. Of course you're going to be. Why would you be your fully transparent self in front of 100,000 people that some of these people have as followers? And yes, maybe they are, in quotes, you know, seemingly fake to those who know that, you know, have known them, but that's the business they're building or whatever. That's the thing they're doing.
Like, it's kind of like online. The equivalent of having a telephone voice. We all have a telephone voice. Let's be real. Do you not?
I don't know. I try not to answer the phone.
Well, me too. But I definitely have a telephone voice.
What does it sound like?
I don't know, but like nicer. Nicer than what I usually sound like. Really nice. Polite. I don't know. Not that I'm not polite, but I get a tone. I definitely get a tone, because I remember, like, my coworkers over last summer would like be like, nice telephone voice. And I'm like, I know, right? Like, it's so great. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I don't know.
It just happens. I don't know. It's just this light switch that goes off in my brain.
No, you're right. Like, I'm thinking.
I mean, I don't do it with you. Obviously, if you call me, I'm just like, what's up, man?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get you. Yeah. I don't know why I said really, do we? Because,
there's a telephone voice. Everyone has one.
Yeah. I don't know if I have one just because I don't get on the phone very much, but maybe I do.
I'm trying to think if I've ever heard you on the phone with, like, someone other than, like, one of your kids or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I try to avoid it.
Yeah. Well, talking on the phone sucks.
Yeah, so...
A little side note there. We don't answer our phones.
Don't even try. So are we trying to mold ourselves into unchanging, authentic objects rather than embracing the messy, evolving nature of being human?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to turn myself into a piece of art.
Yeah, legitimately. Like, that's a question to ask yourself. If you happen to be struggling with this authenticity push that's been going on, or if you're one of the people preaching it, I mean, truly, like, is that what you're doing? Are you trying to get people to mold themselves into inanimate objects, unchanging? Because it's just not going to happen. Like, everyone, I just can't say it enough. I feel very strongly about this. Every single individual is showing up authentically as they are in that very moment. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's just the way it is. If somebody comes online and they're starting a business and you're thinking, I knew them, their house is a mess and they're preaching about organization. Hey, they decided they wanted to start a business that pertained to getting organized. Maybe it was a way for them to try to organize their own lives. First of all, stop judging. Second of all, they're being authentic to what they need to be in that business. I mean, we know we've encountered this concept of the batch content stuff. I mean, that could come off as really inauthentic in a way because...
Well, I think we even struggled with that.
We really have. But in order to have an online business, it really is best if you don't want to work like,
if you don't want to
80 hours a week and drive yourself crazy, that you create your social media content and even emails,
all content,
and all of it, the emails, newsletters, podcasts, that you batch create them. And is that authentic? Like, you know what I mean? Because you could sit there and you could argue this, like, just to let people in behind the scenes here. We get together every Friday and we record our podcast. And typically speaking, we record 2 podcasts. But when we start that podcast, the second one, once again, we start over and we say, what are we talking about today? We already said that an hour and a half, 2 hours earlier. What are we talking about today?
We already know what we're talking about. So are we being inauthentic by pretending like we don't know what we're talking about? Like, I mean, you could run with this in so many different ways.
Absolutely. So, and we're not, with the card game, we're not picking a random card, because some of those cards are things that we're not going to share online. Like, it's just that's just the bottom line. Like, they're deep conversations that you and I need to have in private as friends, as sisters. And we don't want other people to hear that conversation necessarily.
And you don't want to hear it either.
So we browse through the cards a little and we say, oh, do we think we could have a little back and forth on this that might be entertaining or might offer some insight or wisdom or anything? And then that's kind of, we put a bunch of those together and we choose from those. We do choose.
Yes. Oh, yes. We do. We pick a handful and then we pick a random out of the handful. Yeah.
So, but some might say, well, that's inauthentic because we think that, right then on the show, they're picking that one card. I mean, come on, guys. Maybe in a year or two down the line, once we've built, some real rapport with our audience, we could go down that road, but we don't know all of you. And we may not want you to hear.
And you may not want to know all of us. Let's be honest.
But that's the thing is, now with this whole concept of authenticity, how far does it need to go? Because we're talking about, that's transparency.
Yeah.
That's not authenticity. That's transparency. And we have every right to keep certain parts of our lives private from a public, 100%. Or private from different friendships. Absolutely. Even if we're not talking in the online spectrum, if we're just talking about your day to day within your community, it's not like you're going to go and, well, a perfect example is when someone asks you, how are you doing today? And you give that stock answer, fine. I mean, how many times have you not been fine?
Yeah.
So with this impression that's being pushed of authenticity, you could go as far as to say, well, that's not authentic to answer that you're okay when you're really not okay. Right? But I mean, so it's looking
But like, how much are you going to tell your bank teller? Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, I have to be authentic here. Oh, I don't care. There's a line behind me.
I'm having a fight with my husband. And my kids are driving me crazy.
Exactly.
Like, there is, I mean, and I know that that's not exactly what they're talking about when they're referring to authenticity, the ones that are really pushing it. I do know that. But it's, the reason we're using these examples is because this is how absurd it is that you're just saying this word and you're not fully explaining. Authenticity is just showing up as you in every moment, and all of your messiness and all of your ugliness, your beauty, your sadness, your anger, your passion, your pride. I mean, how many times do we shame people for being boastful, prideful, and like being happy about an accomplishment they've had and bragging in quotes? How many times have you heard people shamed for that?
Yeah.
but they were being authentic to their joy and them feeling good about themselves in that moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe they brag about themselves all the time. That's authentic to who they are. And it's okay. It's about really accepting people. I think we should be talking more, instead of telling and pushing all this authenticity over and over and causing people stress and anxiety over whether or not they're showing up authentically. We should be talking about acceptance. Acceptance of everybody as they are.
Yeah.
As authentic beings, as authentic, multidimensional, cyclical beings. Just accept them.
Yeah.
You know, and if they're not your cup of tea, hey, they're not your cup
Go
of tea.
drink coffee.
Go, yeah, exactly. Exactly. But don't shame them and say that they're fake or phony or arrogant or rude, or because everything that you're seeing is authentic to who they are in that moment and what they're feeling. God, I wonder how many times we're using the word authentic in this podcast.
Oh, I don't know. Wow.
It seems like I'm just saying it over and over and over.
Yeah, what are we talking about?
I don't know. What's the subject?
I don't even know.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think pushing it out there that authenticity is a goal, because that's really what we're seeing, is that everyone is, you know, not everyone in quotes, many people out there are presenting authenticity as a goal.
A goal you reach. So like, when do you reach it?
Well,
when are you fully authentic?
And this is the thing, is that the only way, like with what is being presented, that you're going to get to this authentic person is like this enlightened person who has no more healing to do. Like, because the thing is that we're always going to be changing. We're always going to be evolving individually. We are always going to be healing, and we will change within that healing, and our authentic expression will change. It just will. So there's no end game here.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to be putting alongside of show up authentically, and remember, you're ever changing. There's no end game. It's not like you're going to create this persona or allow for the core of who you are to come out and then it just be consistent and unchanging. And then later on, in a year from now, somebody's going to come along and authenticate and go, well, that's not what you were saying a year ago, because we're changing all the time. So, yeah. And we have here like this, you know, it being this goal, and yet no one can agree on what it actually looks like. And that's really the bottom line here, is that it's a word being used with very little explanation. And we do here show up as your messy self. But let's face it, a lot of people are not going to be able to do that because they have fears surrounding rejection. If they show you, if an influencer that talks about joy all the time, let's just say that her whole, he or she, their whole business is related about embracing joy and happiness and gratitude. And then they dip down into a time in their life when something really bad happens and they struggle to feel the joy and the gratitude. Isn't that sad to think that they might need to still continue to show up in joy and gratitude and you know, as these, you know, dynamic influencers of that type of personal growth and work, and not be able to express and show their sadness and their struggle, and because that's kind of what we're creating here. We're pigeonholing people. And I think that's, you know, we've talked about doing another episode on this, but it's putting people into boxes. Yeah. Making, you know, like, well, that's who you are, so now stay in that box. And I think that's what we've done so much with this authenticity thing is, when you sit there and you say about another person that you used to know, oh, that's not who she is authentically. She's not showing up authentically. I knew her when. You've put her in a box, and you've not allowed that person to grow in your mind.
Yeah.
And how sad is that? Like, that's really, really sad. I personally am always open to receiving people changed, and to, look out for the growth that they're doing. And even people that I've drifted apart from, when I hear that they've, had accomplishments or of healing that they've done, I'm celebrating that behind the scenes and cheering for them, because I think that's amazing, that they were a person that was struggling, and then now they're growing, and this is their new authentic self. I think that's a fantastic thing. And I like to offer the grace to people for them to grow. I can't imagine stifling other people's growth in that way. It would be a sad thing. Very, very sad thing. So we have more about exploring the problem. Where are we at for time, Jamie?
50 minutes.
50 minutes. So yeah, I mean, we talked about how social media has turned authentic into a trendy aesthetic rather than an actual way of being. I mean, it really is a problem, and something that I would say, just reflect on, and allow for the people that you follow online to be ever-changing beings, because we just simply are. That's the reality of being human, right? We're always changing, and it's pretty rare when you come across another human that's like, yep, that's them, always the same, they never change. And first of all, to even say that is absurd, really, because we're always in some way changing. Even those that we think are sort of stuck are changing somehow. Yeah. At least biologically, if nothing else. And then we have us. These are just in our show notes, guys. So I'm just kind of going through them. It says, let's dig into the rise of the relatable influencer. And are they genuinely authentic, or is it just a curated act to stay on brand? So we already covered that. That some people do curate an act to stay on brand on our online platforms, and that's what their business is. Yeah, that's how they're making money, and that's how they feel comfortable to show up, or how they feel they need to show up to actually have a chance out there, and that's very authentic to them. And we talked about transparency and vulnerability, and, those things cannot exist without trust and intimacy. So we covered that, and we should not expect others to be transparent, for sure. And I'm certain that is not what those preaching authenticity are implying, but I think that this is one of those situations where you're, something that's being really pushed, again, is not being fully explained, and it's being misunderstood by some of the people listening. And I think we don't always pause and realize how much the things we say affect other people. Yeah. In the smaller spectrum of just our close friends and family. I mean, how many of us really, truly are tuned into, wow, the things I say can really affect the people I love. I need to be mindful of the things I'm saying. So now with, how far we've gone with the reach we have as human beings with the internet now, this has created a much bigger problem, because an influencer is just that. You're influencing people. Yeah. And so your words really matter. So, I would say just be careful what you're talking about out there, because you don't know who's listening, and you don't know where they're at. Yeah. And a lot of people are struggling in really dark places, and pushing a goal of authenticity could make them feel a lot worse about themselves. Because they feel like they have to put those masks on. That without those masks, those masks have become a way of survival for them. Yeah. And they're necessary for them. And allow these people to wear their masks. Let them know that that's okay until they do the healing.
Yeah, you're still worthy of love.
You're worthy of love, and it's okay until
and acceptance.
Yes, and until you do the healing that you need to do, you keep that mask on. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because what's it? You're going to be accepted by the right people.
Yeah.
You're worthy of acceptance by the people that are out there, that are just out there for you. And they're there. They're out there for sure. And I think just, kind of ending this on like the reminder that humans are not consistent. We are not unchanging. It's just not the way we're built. We are messy and moody and full of contradictions. Holy moly, are we ever full of contradictions? And isn't that the whole point of experiencing life and of growing and all the beauty that is in life, is that we're constantly changing. So implying in any way whatsoever that there's one perfect, unchanging version of each individual, I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. And I think we need to just better define what we're talking about again. I think, I'm repeating myself now, but it's like, I feel, I feel so passionate about this because I'm seeing a lot of negative stuff happen, and I'm hearing a lot of phrases being used like, well, like I said, the I'm trying to show up authentically. Yeah. That legitimately, that statement makes no sense. Yeah. And
that statement really means I'm trying to show up how I feel like I have to show up.
Exactly.
That's really what that is.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And the truth is, and this is also another episode that we have discussed recording, but we're not allowing in this striving and setting this precedence of authenticity, we're not allowing people to grow and change.
Yeah.
And by not allowing people to grow and change, I mean, it's such a terrible thing to do to people. It's just not, it's that grace, offering people grace. So, bottom line is you are enough as you are. You are loved in all of your ups and downs and your grumpiness and your pride, and you are worthy of love. You are authentic as you are and as you need to be to feel comfortable and safe in each moment as you move through your day. Don't let words that you're hearing that, are coming through influencers online and, healers and gurus online, don't let those words seep so far in that they discourage you in your journey. Authenticity is nothing to achieve. It already is. And I think that's so important for people to start to realize, is that this is not something you need to work on to achieve. You are authentic. You are authentic in every moment, with every breath you take. And as long as each day you're getting up and trying to do just a little tiny bit better than you did the day before for yourself, that's enough. That's enough. And it's also enough on days when you are so tired that you feel you just can't. You can't human today. We say that, I can't human today, or I can't people today. You're still enough, and you're still authentic, and you're even more authentic to honor that within yourself, So honoring yourself is the most authentic thing you can do. Honoring your moods, honoring your sadness, your happiness, your love, your passions. That's authenticity. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah.
And so much more. I'll be writing bits about this, and I'm actually usually better with the written word than the spoken word. So
same. I don't know why we're doing a podcast.
Because we love to talk to each other.
That's true.
And yeah. So do you have anything you want to end off on?
No.
Nothing?
Not really. I think I know. I was very quiet there for the last while, but
yeah,
you're going with your thing.
Yeah. So
I think you said it well.
Well, thank you. So we want to, on that note, be you today. Just be you. And that's it. That's like you are, amazing, divine, authentic in all that you are. And if nobody's told you today, we love you as you are, and you are worthy. So I'm just going to end off on that for sure. And for those of you who tuned in a little later, possibly this, you've been listening to Unraveling with Jamie and July. And, please check us out on Instagram. And we have a really cool little newsletter we've been working on, and you can sign up and that'll come into your inbox twice a month. And you also will be able to find out other ways you can work with us and different programs and workshops we have coming up. And we just thank you so much for tuning in. Please like the show, rate the show, share it, tell your sisters about it. We're here to kind of go into deep conversations about things that we feel people should be talking about, that we need to talk about for our collective healing. And we just thank you for listening. And until next time, be kind.